Greetings, everyone. Dale Parrish, COS Indiana Live host, along with my co-host, Mr. Ken Kashuba. Hi, Ken.
Hi, Dale. How you doing?
Good. Well, nothing big going on this week, huh? I'll tell you, just a boring week, huh?
Yeah, I thought you were going to give us a week off, and we weren't going to do anything this week.
Yeah. It was just kind of one of those down weeks, But
Yeah.
holy smokes! I'll tell you. Well, we both have voted early this time, right?
Yeah, I got mine done on Halloween night or Halloween
Oh,
after
did you on Halloween night? Really?
Halloween afternoon because it was kind of rainy, and I figured everybody else was out buying candy, and it actually worked out pretty good. I got through in an hour.
Did you?
Yeah. So
Yeah, no, it took me 2.5 hours.
yeah, you gotta be really strategic when you go to vote early now.
I guess so. This is my first time. I've never ever done this in my life, so
Yeah.
I learned something this time around.
Yeah. Well, I think the other interesting part was that I ran into a few people. One in particular, I remember as I was actually getting ready to put my ballot into the box after going through everything. A guy that was standing next to me said, "I haven't voted in 44 years." And I was like, "Oh,
Oh, really?
44?" He said, "Yeah, Ross Perot was the last time he voted." And I said, "Well, what made you come out today?" He just looked at me with this puzzled look on his face, and he just said, "Have you seen what's been going on?"
Yeah. Holy smokes, Ross Perot! Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
So
listen, Ken, tell us a bit about this QR code that's up here.
yeah,
It's up in the right-hand corner on my screen. I'm not sure where it is on yours, but
it's in the right hand corner by mine. But of course, I'm pointing to it, and you think I'm not pointing
see,
to it.
now I'm point. Well, we are pointing in the same direction, aren't we?
Right in
Okay.
the corner. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
All right. Now that we're
Tell
all
us about that.
that QR code is really the best way for you to tell us you'd like to follow us and be a supporter of ours. It's a little QR code that'll get you subscribed to COSIL. There you'll find a community of people that are also subscribed, and by subscribing, they get some additional video and educational material, lots of things about Convention of States, all wrapped up in one little platform. And all you need is a name and an email address, and we don't even haunt you. We just give you the platform and let you run with it. So by hitting the old smartphone and getting that plugged in, just give us your name, your email address, and you'll become a subscriber, and we'll thank you for that. And I'll put a post in the chat where you can do it with a URL as well.
All right. Great. Well, Ken, I want to get started here. We got a lot to get that we want to present tonight, and as you know, we've been spending some time talking about the J6ers, the people that got caught up in the January 6th riot and so forth that happened at the Capitol, and it's just been fascinating the people that we've met and talked with, and especially our advocate Wendy Olson. Wendy has she knows a host of J6 prisoners as well as family members that and friends that have been caught up in this, and the network that has formed out there to support the J6ers and their families and friends. It's just amazing, We've already presented. We're going to finish up on Lieutenant Colonel Larry Brock Jr. this evening, and we're actually going to present two parts on him. I had originally planned on doing it one part at a time, but we've already presented one part one. I believe that was on the 21st, I think it was, of October.
Correct.
And that's what he took us through what actually happened with him on January 6th. And he had video of areas that he was in the Capitol so forth. Um, what we're going to present tonight in part 2, which is going to be upcoming here very shortly, we're going to present what has happened to him starting January 7th all the way up to his release from prison. And then we'll take a little bitty break, and we'll start part 3, which starts the day he was released from prison and going forward. So I want to get this all in tonight because I think it's very important. And this is a man that got caught up in this. And you can make your own judgment about what actually transpired on January 6th. And I know I've struggled with that too. But I think the point that I think we're trying to make here is that the way these people have been treated and continue to be treated, it's not that's not right. It's just not right. And some of them have been in prison for months without a trial. So anyway, I hope you enjoy Lieutenant Colonel Larry Brock Jr. Part 2 and Part 3. So we'll just jump right into Part 2 right now.
Sounds good.
All right. Greetings, everyone. Dale Parrish with COS Indiana Live again, and here to bring you part 2 of our interview with Lieutenant Colonel Larry Brock, who was a member, part of the January 6th situation at our Capitol. And in this part, we're going to pick up from January 7th on and all the way up to Larry's release from prison. So in this part, I'm going to ask Larry to comment, and there's a lot of stuff here, a lot of things for him to talk about. So hopefully we can get it all in a reasonable amount of time here. But let me bring Larry back for part 2. Hi, Larry. Welcome back.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me back on.
No problem. No problem. Larry, it's been very, very interesting so far. Thank you for doing part 1 with us. This is part 2. So, Larry, I'm going to let you take it up starting January 7th and walk us through what happened to you leading up to the point of you being finally released from prison. So take it away, Larry.
All right. As you said, there's a lot of information in there. All right. On January the 7th, I returned from Washington, D.C. I went and saw my son, who was 7 years old at the time. That night, after I dropped him off, I started receiving death threats from the American left. So on Friday, I took care of some personal business, and then I went to go stay with my father, who lived in a gated community. Now, I have subsequently learned that on Friday, the FBI had my phone number. They also went in and they raided my apartment and took my computers and all of my electronic devices, as well as the ski jacket that I was wearing on the day of January the 6th.
Were you expecting this, Larry, or some kind of action to be taken?
Honestly, sir, I was anticipating that they were going to call me for an interview. I did not anticipate the hostility of their reaction because I had done nothing violent at all. All I had done was walked in the building. I think if I had acted violently, I would have expected that. But no, I was not expecting what eventually happened. That Saturday, my employer called, and then based off of all of the, I would say the maelstrom of negative publicity that was surfacing, offered me the opportunity to resign, which I did in lieu of being terminated. And so that was that Saturday. On Sunday, the FBI finally got around to calling me. Now, at first, they lied to me and told me they only wanted to meet me to have an interview. I said, great. And to me, that was wonderful news because that meant that they weren't trying to have me, arrested. So we set something up with my attorney. The FBI called and changed the location, which we agreed to the Grapevine City, which is where I was living at the time, police department. Now, there should have been my sign, but there wasn't. We agreed that I would meet them at 4:30 in the afternoon. About 3 o'clock, my attorney called me and said, a warrant has just been issued for your arrest. You need to go turn yourself in. So I proceeded directly to the jail and turned myself in at 3:30. Now you're saying, why would you go an hour early? Well, because I know the FBI. They had arranged for press to be there at 4:30. Well, how do you know that since you were arrested and in jail? Well, because my nieces came to pick up my car and there was a maelstrom of press there at 4:30.
Wow.
So essentially that was the first FBI lie. The second one was that I would have access to an attorney, which they never provided prior to my arraignment. And then the third lie to me was that I was facing 40 years in prison for my completely nonviolent actions on January the 6th. So I have a very low regard for that institution that I once held in very high regard. All right. So eventually I was kept in solitary confinement for 4 days, went in front of a judge, and they released me on strict house arrest. So I spent the next 7 months on house arrest with what I call a Biden manacle or a GPS anklet around my foot. I was not allowed to leave except to attend church, to work, which, I had to get a different job, and for healthcare appointments. So again, I already spent 7 months in prison before the judge finally let me take that anklet off and resume, I'm going to call it normal life, because I was still pre-trial, not able to travel really anywhere. So then I went to trial in November of 2022, and the judge, I opted for a bench trial because I had no hope for a fair trial from a Washington, D.C. jury, but the judge still found me guilty. The only thing of note really at the trial that's any different from any other J6er was they actually entered into evidence against me a passage from the Declaration of Independence. When any form of government becomes destructive of those ends, it is their right, it is their duty to alter or abolish it. So my attorney looked at me and said, can you believe that in an American court, in the American Capitol, in front of an American judge, an American military officer is being cited for quoting the Declaration of Independence? And I was like, absolutely not. But again, that is the Harris Biden regime that we live under right now. So I was found guilty, and the government asked for 6 years of prison time. Now, the way it works is there's about a 3-month delay between when you're found guilty and when you're sentenced. So I was sentenced in early February of 2023 and told to report to the Springfield, I call it the Gulag, but the Springfield prison on May 29th of 2023. So the judge gave me 2 years. Now, I went inside that prison intending to conduct a hunger strike until Speaker McCarthy released the videos. So for 4 straight days, I was kept in solitary confinement. And when I was finally released to the general population, I called my girlfriend at the time, and she told me that Speaker McCarthy had agreed to release the videotape. Well, I didn't necessarily trust him. So I was like, well, do I stop the hunger strike or keep it going? And I opted for a third path, which was to slowly continue it. So over the next 2 months, I starved myself and lost 66 pounds, or 1/4 of my body weight at the time. Now, while I was in there, I read a couple of books about American POWs and, from their time in Vietnam, specifically one written by Commander Hugh Stafford. And it reminded me of the 4th article of the American Fighting Man's Code of Conduct, a part of which says, if I am senior, I will take command. If not, I will obey the lawful orders of those appointed over me and will back them up in every way. Well, to my knowledge, I am the senior ranking political prisoner. And so I issued guidance that got sent throughout the prison system. Now, this guidance was to my fellow prisoners to keep faith with each other, to keep accountability of each other, to use their time wisely to educate themselves. It also consisted of things like having faith in the American people to restore this time that's stolen from them, and to keep faith with President Trump and make no oral or written statements disloyal to the president or to the America First movement. So again, they took great offense to that, and they threw me in the hole for 131 days. Now,
what's in, is that solitary or
yes, sir. A lot of it is solitary, but it was essentially an upgrade from minimum security time to supermax time.
Oh, really?
I was kept in a cell for 23 hours a day, 5 days a week. I was allowed out only 1 hour a day, and then the weekends I was kept in the cell the entire time. So it was basically an activist Democratic officer in that prison that used that email against me to upgrade my prison sentence to supermax time. So while in there, again, I would have preferred, honestly, that it be solitary, and it was a lot of the time. They also threw an absolutely insane inmate in with me. The man told me when he walked into the cell that he spoke with demons. He openly bragged about running a fentanyl ring that had resulted in 15 deaths of American citizens. So this was not, if you will, a pleasant time to have him in there.
Wow.
Eventually, he was removed and placed under psychiatric observation and then transferred out. Now, I believe that they put him in there in the hopes that the man would try to somehow assault me. Now, the second thing they did is they tried to have me transfer. Again, this is on the basis of one email. Transferred to a prison that is commonly known as Jihadi prison. All right, it is the Communications Management Unit in Terre Haute. And what goes on there is all of the Al-Qaeda terrorists that we have captured and that are brought to the U.S. for trial are there. So they were literally trying to transfer a decorated U.S. Air Force officer that had fought Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan into a prison full of them. Now,
Wow.
this is how the BOP deals with people they don't like. They put hostile elements next to them in a dangerous environment to try and hurt them. Now, the third thing they did is when their attempt to transfer me to that prison was denied, when an actual member of Al-Qaeda showed up in Springfield, his name is Abid Nasir. They put him sleeping less than 6 feet from me. Now, there are only 5 other bunks within 6 feet of me, and there were over 500 in the prison. So again, less than a 1% chance that was random. As a matter of fact, I know it wasn't random because I was told that by a guard. They wound up moving him 5 days later. The reason they moved him is their own guards were calling and complaining, saying this is unsafe for you to have an Al-Qaeda member next to a military officer.
So you were getting a little help from some of the guards then, right?
Yes, sir. I was very fortunate to be put in prison in Missouri, which is a red state. And I will tell you the vast majority of the guards there, many of them would come up and shake my hand and say, I'm so sorry that you're in here, and I wish I would have been there with you on January the 6th.
Wow.
That's because they had gone to my website and saw, just like you did and your viewers, that I didn't do anything violent that day, that I did not deserve to be in prison for 2 years. So eventually, sir, they also cut off my communication with the American people. They would not allow me to get any mail from any citizens. And there's a great group called the Patriot Mail Project that organizes mail from citizens around the country to J6 Patriots. It was a tremendous morale boost that they took away specifically to punish me.
We've had that group on as a guest, by the way. So
yes, sir.
Good. Glad to hear that. Yes.
And so, that warden and that captain, in my mind, took terrorist actions, and I am going to use that word freely, to destroy my morale. In my opinion, they placed people near me to try and see personal harm visited upon me. And, again, I want them held accountable in the next Trump administration for what they did.
Okay.
Now, eventually, honestly, sir, I got a little bit lucky. My case manager, who I happen to know was a registered Democrat, went out of his way to actually try and help me and get me out early. And so when I say get me out early, he gave me an additional time in the halfway house that I was not going to get. They had limited me to 28 days, and it became 73 days when he asked the question again. So he let me, or he actually maneuvered within the law to get me to a halfway house quicker than I thought I would actually be there.
Okay. All right.
Now, so this led to me being released from prison on the 4th of June in 2024, and that's where I recorded the video that you will see shortly. Now, I will tell you that, my time in prison was marked with good friends from, my fellow J6 defendants, one of whom is out now. I will tell you that I learned a lot about humans and humanity and more about our justice system while I was in there. I took the time to practice what I preach. I studied as much as I could, but there wasn't really anything that for anybody that had a college education. But what I did do was honestly help men that wanted to get their GEDs. So I am very thankful that I had the opportunity to tutor people in math. And what they specifically did is they handed me people that had failed the test before and said, you get them through. Now, on that note, I was 5 of 5 before they threw me in the hole.
Well, that's great. That's good.
Yeah,
that's great.
I'm very happy with that. And honestly, to see a hardened criminal smile and say, man, I can't wait to tell my parents that I got my GED, that meant a lot to me. So I'm glad that I had that experience. You always try and take something positive away. But
sure.
Other than that, I would not recommend prison to anyone else.
Oh, I believe you. I believe you.
Yes, sir.
Well, we're about out of time, so let's kind of wrap this up. Now, you were released. What was the date again? June
4th of 2024.
June 4th, 2024. Okay, and so quite an ordeal. Like, how many days total were you in prison?
372 days in prison, 131 of those which were while I was in the hole. So over 1/3 of my prison sentence was in the hole, either in solitary or occasionally with a cellmate.
I can't remember if you mentioned this early on, but what was your occupation before this all happened to you?
I was a 737 captain flying for a private airline. I didn't talk about that, but the FAA did take my licenses away from me. And then I started a company doing home inspection. And then in Texas, as a convicted felon, I'm not allowed to have that license. So that got taken away from me.
All right. All right, Larry. Well, that's a wrap then for this segment or this part. Can you come back and give us part 3?
Yes, sir.
Where we'll talk about what has happened to you since being released from prison and how you're putting your life back together. So can you do that?
Yes, sir. Happy
okay. Well, Larry, thank you once again for your time. And I want to say thank you for your service. I don't want to forget to say that. But thank you for your service, Larry. And we'll see you shortly in part 3. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Well, Ken, I'll tell you, that was quite a story. I'll tell you, from Larry.
No, if you didn't hear it straight from his mouth, you would think this was a novel, a novel written. I know there's I can't think of the name of the author right now, but there's a whole chain of novels that would fit this to a T.
Yeah. It's something. I tell you, he. How many days did he say? 372 days, I think he said.
Yeah.
He spent in prison. That's a full year.
Just the amount of time he spent in what the hole, I mean, solitary,
Can you imagine being in solitary for 23 out of 24 hours every day, and then all weekends, and oh my God.
Yeah. This is our justice system and our government network.
Well, we're going to like I said, we're going to go ahead and play you part 3 today. Now, part 3 starts off with a short video that he made the day he was released from prison. What was June 4th or something like that of 2024, the day he was released from prison. And he told me that he hurriedly put on his old uniform. You'll see in the video. And it's kind of an emotional video. He was, you can imagine he was pretty emotional that day. But we'll start the video out with that. We'll start his part 3 video out with the video that he recorded the day he was released from prison. And then he'll pick up with what has happened to him and his efforts at putting his life back together. He's got some big plans on what he wants to do, but you don't realize this, but when you've got being a convicted felon on your record, that really eliminates a lot of things that you and I, appreciate and experience day in and day out.
Yep.
And
take for granted.
Yeah, take for granted. That's what I was trying to get to. Yes.
Yeah.
So,
and I remember the name of that author. It's Tom Clancy. If you've ever read any Tom Clancy books.
Oh yeah. Yes. This
was fit in with, he could draft a whole novel out of it, except it wouldn't be fiction.
All right, let's go on with part 3 here.
I thank God that I've had the opportunity to serve my country under such trying and difficult circumstances. For 372 days, I have been a political prisoner of this administration. Although I have many things to say about my time and treatment inside the Springfield Gulag, that will wait. The first thing I must do is give thanks to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, for my deliverance and liberation. To every American that prayed for me or wrote to me, thank you. Your support meant everything, especially in the dark days when they threw me in the hole, especially when they were trying to have me killed. I ask every American to reflect on the fact that just 4 short years ago, we all believed we enjoyed the full protection of the Bill of Rights, the right of free speech, the right to assemble, the right to a speedy trial, and the right to a trial by a jury of our peers. But now, as many in the minority community already knew, those rights just don't exist anymore. Instead, we have FBI censorship and propaganda, warrantless surveillance, and indefinite pretrial and post-conviction detention of American citizens. And worst of all, the fundamental tenet of American jurisprudence, equal justice under law, has been corrupted. And now we have a 2-tiered system of justice, complete with political show trials, ranging from the former president to a common man like me. In the face of this banality of evil, you're right to ask, what can one man or one woman do? Although you must continue to pray. To merely pray while Americans are being shipped to gulags as prisoners of conscience, well, that just mocks God and dishonors the sacrifice of our founding fathers and the shed blood of patriots who enshrined our rights in our sacred Constitution. So I'm asking you today, please, call your congressmen and senators and demand that they live up to the gospel they profess to believe. Demand that they not only proclaim liberty to the captives, but that they use the full power of the legislature, their voice, their vote, and most importantly, the budget, to set at liberty those who are oppressed. And if they will not do this, vote them out, every last one of them. Never again should there be a political prisoner in the United States. Finally, in the words of a truly great man, a man who was also a prisoner of his government, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. God bless you, your families, and God bless the United States of America.
Everyone, Dale Parrish, COS Indiana Live, and welcome to part 3 of our interview with Lieutenant Colonel Larry Brock. I hope you've enjoyed part 1 and part 2. We've talked to him about his what actually transpired in part 1 on January 6th with him. Then part 2, we talked about his what happened to him starting January 7th and going through to the date of his release from prison, which was in June of 2024. So we're going to pick up here in part 3, and this will be the final part. So I want to bring Larry on right now and welcome him. Hello, Larry. Welcome back for part 3.
Thank you. Appreciate returning.
All right. Larry, I want to, before we get started on part 3, we want to hear from you now how you're putting your life back together since you got released, since the day you got released. But I want to, we've already played for everyone the video that you made the day of your release, where you put your uniform on and you gave us a very, very emotional, I think, 2-3 minute video about your release from prison. So, Larry, I will have already shown that to everyone. That'll be part of this segment, this part. So, tell us, Larry, what has happened now with you since your release?
Well, as you might imagine, that video caused a little bit of a stir. It was funny that while we were in prison, we were like, I wonder how many people will actually watch it. What would we consider a home run? And we considered getting 10,000 people to watch it would have been a home run. I haven't checked it recently, but I know the last time I looked on X, my X space, it was at 1.9 million views just on my feed.
Is that right?
Yes, sir. So the American people, I think it resonated with them, that we do have a 2-tiered system of justice. So what has happened since then? Well, I went to the halfway house, and honestly, they didn't kind of know what to do with me either, because I was conducting interviews and talking openly about things. And I'm not your normal guy that goes through there. They said, what is your plan? And I'm like, here's my plan. I'm going to get out and do nothing except work to try and see Donald Trump elected president.
Where is that? Where is the halfway house located? Where is this one?
It's in Fort Worth, Texas. And the good news there is my mother was able to see me. I had a cell phone so I could talk to people all the time. And honestly, just kind of reintegrating into the world, you don't realize how much you miss, having a computer until you don't have one. And I am, dialing back into the news, getting reassociated. I tried to honor my pledge by working as hard as I could to register voters for the Texas Republican Party. It's a lot harder to reach people sometimes than you think it's going to be, but I did eventually get in touch with them. The problem is, in the state of Texas, you have to go through a class, and guess what you can't be to register voters?
Right.
You can't be a convicted felon. So I couldn't do that. And then they thought, well, let's make him a precinct chairman or precinct captain in the Texas Republican Party. Well, I can't do that as a convicted felon either. So what I did do is I've been door knocking. I'm probably going to go again this Saturday and just asking people to early vote. I would like to go to a battleground state, but guess what? I can't travel while I'm on probation outside of the United States for the first 60 days, which takes me through October 20th. So again,
now, you're on probation. Technically, you're
Yes.
on how long is that supposed to last?
Well, again, that's all tied to the felony. So that's going to be a matter for the judge to redecide.
Okay.
Something that we didn't really talk about is the fact that while I was in prison, I won an appeal, which is supposed to have reduced my sentence. Congress also changed the law saying that if you had 0 prior offenses, your sentence should be reduced. So even though I was entitled to both of those things, the judge just sort of ignored it. He chose not to rule on them. And by him choosing to ignore it, he got his full 2-year sentence. Now, because of the Supreme Court's decision on the only felony I was charged with, to dramatically narrow the scope of it, I have to be resentenced, reference Fisher, which is the 1512 felony. Now, when the felony goes away, and it should, because I didn't do anything under the new scope of Fisher to merit them keeping that felony, the probation should also go away. But right now, sir, to answer your question, for the next 2 years. However, it should go away on the 1st of November when I'm resentenced.
Okay.
Now, here's the really crazy thing. I host a Twitter space every day, and I am very active and very critical of this particular administration and its Department of Justice for its overreach, its two-tiered system of justice, and its selective prosecution. Gee, I wonder why I feel that way. Anyway, so
Can't imagine why.
they literally want to gag me. And what I mean by that is they want to censor what I read and what I say, both online and in interviews. They've requested that while I'm on probation, I not be allowed to say anything.
Uh-oh.
Well, again, as you can tell, I'm really scared of them now. That's the thing. You know, you take a man and you throw him in prison, you destroy his entire life, and then you try and kill him while he's in prison. He's going to lose his fear of you real quick. I mean, what more? I mean, I guess they could line me up and shoot me. That's the only thing left that this government hasn't done to me as an American patriot that served our country for 29 years. So you ask another question. How am I going to put my life together? Well, I interviewed, honestly, with a company that was looking for information on the violation of my First Amendment rights that occurred when I was put on trial. And at the end of that interview, the CEO said, "What can I do to help you?" And I said, "I need a job." And so right now I'm working for that company. I'm going to be honest with you, sir. I'm not going to display or talk about the company's name ever because I've learned to fear the American left and their doxing.
Yeah.
And, you know, until we enact some type of legal protection from that, I'm just not going to share information like that.
Larry, didn't you tell me you were debanked during this whole thing?
Yes, sir.
Too?
Twice.
Twice?
Once from Charles Schwab and another one from First Convenience Bank. And again, just so you know, I never bounced a check. I paid everything on time with them for over 25 years, and they still debanked me.
Have you been able to reestablish those?
I have, sir, with a local bank as well. I mean, it extends beyond that. We're on a terrorist watch list. So it's, for me to fly is a complete and absolute nightmare. So I literally, air travel is out of the question. And here's the crazy thing about that. I used to be a federal flight deck officer, which means that the government authorized me to carry a gun in the cockpit to keep the American public safe.
Right.
But, you know, this is how I'm being treated by as a terrorist. And yet I went and represented you and the American people and fought terrorists.
You know, I think I mentioned to you, another prisoner told me, you know, the punishment was the process.
Yes, sir.
And so that's very true, isn't it?
It is very true, sir. I will tell you that what I'd really like to do is work for the Trump campaign. For the Trump administration. And specifically, I'm pretty good at investigating things. And there's some people that, you know, we've got some crimes that were perpetrated against both J6ers, against, you know, Catholic Latin Mass priests, against people that are protesting at abortion clinics. And we need to investigate the Department of Justice. And that's what I'd really like to do is go in and serve the administration and bring these people to justice that have violated the First, Fourth, Fifth, Sixth, and Eighth Amendment rights of American citizens. I
think I remember you saying in our conversations leading up to this that you really think that there should be some Nuremberg type trials on this, right?
Yes, sir, I do. Because them acting like fascists does not justify us retaliating in a fascist manner. And so we have a historical precedent of dealing with a fascistic justice system. And so I do believe that Congress should authorize a special counsel to investigate the DOJ, and that we need to set up some type of tribunal to hold these federal judges, these U.S. prosecutors, accountable for their actions, because, sir, they've gone beyond the pale. You know, not a single J6er has been granted a change of venue in the most partisan district in the United States. Not a single J6er has had a case waived for selective prosecution when in the same city, BLM or Antifa advocates that had assaulted federal officers protecting the White House, Secret Service officers protected the White House. Those same charges were not, you know, brought against them. We see a congressman pulling a fire alarm deliberately to delay or obstruct Congress. He gets a $50 misdemeanor fine. Maybe it was $1,000 misdemeanor fine. He doesn't get 2 years for obstructing Congress. I mean, he clearly obstructed Congress, which is what we were sentenced with. So again, it is gross what they have done. And again, we see Tanya Chutkan and her personal jihad against President Donald Trump, where they continue to pervert American law for their own political ends. And it happens again and again and again. And the only way to deal with that, the only American way of dealing with that, is to have an independent counsel investigate them. Now, I believe there's 2 articles of justice that they may be susceptible to, and that's Title 18, Section 241, conspiracy to defraud an American citizen of their rights, and Title 18, Section 242, depriving an American citizen of their rights under color of law. Again, I just want to see an investigation. If the special counsel concludes that they acted within scope, that's fine. But I believe if we were to dig into their emails, we would find collusion between them and the Department of Justice as to how they were going to essentially crucify J6 political prisoners.
Yeah. Okay. Larry, before we sign off here, we're getting close to our time limit here, but I wanted to bring up your website, show everybody your website.
Thank you.
And let me bring that up here now. So this is right here. You see on your website, that's you in your uniform. That's the video that we played to lead off this part 3. So do you keep this post updated, and are you posting?
I am lagging the fight by probably about a month. I need to post some interviews that I've given in the interim there, but yes, I do keep it updated. Again, I don't like to just provide any personal information right now. However, I will probably put an update once I get more information on Matthew DeGraves, like we talked about, the man that may have been working for the federal government that I stopped from assaulting a Capitol policeman.
Okay, all right.
This I'll put this interview up there.
This might point out this J6 political prisoner breaks silence. That's where the video that we played in part 1 is located. So just to call out everybody's attention. But so this is Larry's website, and it's Larry Brock Jr., LarryBrockJR.com.
Yes, sir.
So if anyone wants to learn more about you or stay up with your situation, then this is where they can go to find that information. So,
yes, sir. I'm also very active on X. The same thing, at Larry Brock Jr. If you want to go there, I host a daily space where we talk politics, January 6th, and everything that we can do to help Donald Trump win.
Okay, Larry. Well, Larry, I think that's a wrap.
All right. Thank you very much, sir.
We've done part 1 and part 2, and this is part 3. And I guess, obviously, Larry, this next election is very, very key in your mind. I mean, it's critical in everyone's mind, I think.
Yes.
But especially for your case and the J6 prisoners.
Yes, sir. That's why I'm working for Donald Trump so hard is, the best thing I can do to help my fellow January 6th political prisoners is to get Donald Trump elected, because he's promised a pardon for those people that, acted like I did with integrity and just peacefully protested. Now, they're going to take a harder look at people that did assault police officers. And I'm completely good with that. They should. If you assault a police officer, there's a problem.
Yes.
No matter what.
I agree. All
yes,
right.
sir.
All right, Larry. Once again, thank you very much. Thank you for your service.
Yes, sir.
Sorry you had to go through this ordeal, and obviously it's gonna linger on with you and the rest of your life. Really.
Unfortunately, yes, it will.
Yes. So, Larry, once again, thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes, sir. You have a wonderful day. Hey, when is this going to air?
Part 1 will air October 21st.
Okay.
And part 2 will be probably, we may do part 2 and 3 on November 4th, the day before the election. Okay.
All right, sir. All right. Thank you.
We'll see if we can get it in. Thank you very much, Larry.
You bet.
Well, folks, that wraps up our series on Pillars of Freedom on Lieutenant Colonel Larry Brock Jr. So I hope you've enjoyed what we've brought to you. I think it's been quite a story, and I'm very pleased that we were able to bring this to you. So with that said, we will again thank you for tuning in to COS Indiana Live. Thank you and have a good day. Well, there you are, Larry Brock. Quite a story, Ken.
Quite a story, and I'm sure he'll be up all night tomorrow night.
Yep. Thank you. I so much wanted to get his story in prior to the election because obviously, as you heard there in part 3, that he really would like to work for the Trump administration. So we'll see if there is going to be a Trump administration, and we'll see if he ever gets an opportunity. So. But have you remember him saying he was debanked? You ever heard? I've heard that a couple times.
Yeah.
Do you recall? It seems like we talked about that once on one of our broadcasts. What that means? Do you remember what that entails?
Well, basically, the bank freezes everything. You can't do
Is that
it.
what it is?
Yeah, And in his situation, it might even go a step further than just freezing. They might just say, you can't bank here anymore. But I from the best of my recollection, it was they basically freeze you out of your bank. I have a personal friend I know that not for the same reason, but had their bank account frozen mainly because it got hacked.
Right.
And they weren't able to use their bank during a whole investigation because their bank got hacked. So I mean that's just another whole avenue of it. But I believe it'd be the same thing as being debanked. It's the government decides that, hey, we're going to shut this guy's bank down. So,
I didn't ask him this, but I wonder, did they confiscate any of his any funds that he had in the bank? Or
interesting to know. I don't know. I wouldn't think they could. Well, I mean, we're constitutional all the time, Dale, but so far we've seen that the Constitution doesn't mean much nowadays.
Apparently not. Well, folks, I hope you've enjoyed Larry Brock. I mean, that's another prime example, I think, of the treatment that these people have gotten. So, well, listen. Ken, I want to take a little time here to talk a little bit about something that we accomplished here in October. And I want to throw some numbers up here. We in July of this year, we experienced a new record as far as views are concerned and the number of followers. In July, we hit, for the month, we hit 156,946 views and 12,250 followers for COS Indiana Live. Well, in October, we blew those numbers out and came up in October with 177,774 views. 13,564 followers. So, Ken, we're not nearly to the number of views that Larry got on his video on X.
Pretty amazing, yeah, pretty amazing.
But I'd like to think we're on our way.
Well, Dale, maybe if we break down and let me interview you, you can tell your story. We'll break that record.
You think that would garner a lot of views? Huh? I don't think so.
Once we dig into your background, it's going to be over.
I don't think so, Ken. But I do think that what I'm gleaning from this is that I think we are bringing content to our viewers that is interesting to them. And
well, the other thing, Dale, is it's not only interesting, but it's information that they're not getting anywhere else. I hate to name it. I hate to make that claim like that, but that's if that kind of information is out there, it's very scarce. So the kudos for the interviews you've done with these J6ers and for the connections we've been able to make here at COSIL. It's I think that's what brings you at least some satisfaction, is that you're revealing some information that people really do need to know. And
I hope we are, Ken.
And I'm sure Larry is hoping that maybe if this gets 2 more people to go to the polls tomorrow and vote, then it was worth his time and effort.
Right. And we've got more. Wendy has lined up some other people that want to talk to us, and I'm going to be very, very interested in what kind of responses we get from some of these people based on the results of the election. And
I think one thing that Larry said that struck me too is, and again, I've heard more of these people that have been caught up in this say that, they didn't do anything that to deserve this, but they're fully for people that were in that group that day with them that did act, inappropriately.
Right.
So, I mean, the fact is, there was some problems there, but yeah, I think there's, as he said, there's so much video that needs to be revealed to show that, yeah, there were some people that acted, not correctly on that day, but the government on the other side of things is not the government that we all think they should be, or that.
Well, I want to know the people that did not, that acted inappropriately. Were they really patriots, or were they plants? Were they government informants? Was Antifa? Were there Antifa people, BLM people? I just got this has all raised a lot of questions in my mind. So
it's complicated. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on then. So thank you everyone for the support as far as our views and followers are concerned. We're gonna keep plugging away here. Our goal for 2025 is to have a month with 250,000 views. So that's the goal coming up. Let's talk about what's going to be happening now on our next COS Indiana Live, which will be on November 11th. We're going to, our state director will come on and give us an update for how the state did in October. And then we've got some interviews that Ken and I have done with some new COS leaders here in Indiana, and got a couple young, up and coming leaders in COS. I mean, we're talking college kids here that are really coming along, and I think they're really going to be leaders in COS leaders in the future. And of course, we'll have some more COS basics from John Ackerman. So that'll be coming up on the 11th. Okay, our next roundtable will be November 25th, and it'll be part 2 of our last roundtable on October 28th. The Bill of Rights, don't you dare. In other words, things that are forbidden according under the Bill of Rights. So we'll do part 2 on the November 25th roundtable. And that will be the final roundtable, the final broadcast for 2024. Ken, that'll be a wrap. We'll our December roundtable, we'll be right near Christmas. So I think Ken and I will put together something to do a best of type broadcast on December. It's December 23rd, I think, is the actual 4th Monday in December. So also want to remind everyone that if you have any questions or comments about tonight's broadcast that you weren't able to get into us, feel free to drop us an email, raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. Raise Your Voice, COS@gmail.com. Kent, I want to bring on another episode of COS Basics here, but were there any comments or questions from any viewers tonight that
No, no, nothing tonight. Basically have invited people to share their comments or questions, and we didn't really get anything tonight. Hopefully, we'll get some email on it. I know people were. I basically told people it was a pre-recording, but certainly welcomed their comments. So
yeah, okay.
Maybe we'll do some after the recorded version is out here. Following up here on YouTube or Facebook.
Okay, all right. So we'll play for you another episode of COS Basics from John Ackerman, and then we'll automatically sign off. But once again, folks, if you haven't voted early, tomorrow's the day. And what's the weather supposed to be like down where you live tomorrow, Ken?
I think it's going to be not bad temperature wise. The temperatures are supposed to stay pretty close to upper 60s. I think in that range. There's a chance, I think, of a shower or so, but nothing dramatic. It should be okay to get out, and even if it's not, you should get out.
Yes.
Don your umbrella and your raincoat or whatever it takes.
Right.
When we look at what some of these people have done for our country, we certainly need to. I mean, we've talked about get off the couch so long. I think we've stopped using that term probably a year or so ago, but it really necessitates getting off the couch. Turn the television off. I know we still got a little bit of time here. I heard today that the poor people in Pittsburgh were seeing up to 2,000 political ads an hour.
My.
In Pennsylvania. So I mean, don't turn on the television. Get off the couch. Put on your raincoat, even if it's not going to rain, and go vote.
That's good advice. Good advice. All right, Ken. Well, we'll be glued to the TV tomorrow evening, I'm sure, and to see what the results are. So, historic day tomorrow, or whenever it's done. I don't know if it'll be done. I don't know if it'll be done tomorrow, but we'll.
Sure. The biggest thing we can do right now is pray for our country. So.
We'll see. There you go. Good advice. Pray for our country.
Yep.
So good night, everyone. Here's COS Basics with John Ackerman. So that'll be a wrap for tonight. And thank you all again for our record-breaking month in October on views and followers. And we'll continue the fight. So good evening, everyone.
John Ackerman for Convention of States, Indiana, continuing my series on COS Basics. I found something really cool on the internet, and I just want to share it with you. COSfacts.net. I'm going to show you that again before the end of this episode so that you can look it up yourself. COSfacts.net. And if you go to that website, here's a printout of what you'll find there. Okay. Get this form at COSfacts.net. It has 15 QR code things on it. The first one here, I can't read it that way. I'll have to turn it around. If you scan that QR code, you'll go to facts on an Article 5 convention is not a constitutional convention. It cannot frame, revise, or amend our Constitution. Its only power is to propose amendments to the current Constitution, which must fit the scope of the state applications, and then must be ratified by 38 states. Now, I'm not going to read this whole document to you. I just want to show it to you. And up here is a QR code where you can scan that code to sign the petition, and you can scan that code to get another copy of this form. But it goes on for 2 pages and 15 different QR codes with some very important COS facts. And so I highly recommend this. It's really exciting. I'm kind of pumped up about it, and I wanted to share it with you. This is a very important basic thing about Convention of States. If you want to get it yourself, go to this website, cosfacts.net, and get the facts.